Welcome to the demonstration video for style lines. In week 2, under lessons, you will find your style lines. And you can read through this for a little information about the different tools we will be using. Most of them you've been practice using already in week 1 of this course. You will also want to refer to your textbook. Chapter 6, starting on page 121, is about style lines. We're going to focus on the princess style line manipulation, which actually begins on page 122. In order to do these exercises, you're going to need the 2-dart size 8 sloper bodice. Click on that link. It will automatically put it into your downloads folder. You can then open that file. Immediately do a save as. That way you maintain this original one if ever you need to go back to the 2-dart sloper. We'll do a save as. Make sure that the name of the assignment is the name that you give it, Princess Style Line, and then put your initials or your name in the file name. Also pay attention to which folder you put it into. You can select or change that. If you need more options, this down arrow up here by your Save As enlarges your option window and allows you to be able to go to different folders if need be. You can collapse that and then click Save. Leave all of these as their default markings and click OK. All right, now that we have done that, we need to check that our grid settings, we can go to our preferences. If you're in Illustrator on a Mac, you can go under Illustrator CC, otherwise go under File if you're on a PC. And we need to check the guides and grid. Make sure that we are grid line every 1 inch and subdivisions of 8. We'll click OK, that's good. Now we need to turn on our grid, go to the view, go down to near the bottom of the list, say show grid. That way that'll help us with some alignments or being able to count increments of 1 inch when moving things. All right, we're going to add another artboard so that we can move the back pieces to one artboard and have the front on the other. You can find your artboards in your layers panel, otherwise under the window menu, go down to artboards. It shares the same panel with layers, it's just a different tab across the top here. And we can duplicate the artboard, which means that now we have the exact same patterns on here, although we just need the front patterns on one artboard. So I'm going to delete the back pieces on that one and delete the front pieces on this one. That way we have an artboard for each one of these. Everything is grouped together for each pattern, so when you select it, you can go to Object, Ungroup. That will ungroup them, but maybe before I deselect everything, I'm going to move my front piece over just a little bit. I'm kind of looking to get center front on an intersection of my major lines. All right, once I do that, I can now select my text and my grain line. I'm just going to move it out of the way temporarily. I do want to keep my bust point in place, and I need to change my fill for the pattern to a nothing fill. Okay, I can go ahead and do that with my back piece also, just getting it ready for the manipulations a little bit later. We'll pick up with the back in a moment. All right, we have done all of that for getting set up for our exercise. I'm going to move on to our manipulation steps, following along with the steps in the textbook on page 122. We need to plot our style line from our shoulder to our bust point down to this waist dart point. We want this style line to line up on this shoulder seam where this dart would match up when those are sewn together. So I'm going to show you a quick way that we can kind of figure out where that dart line would go. I'm going to use my direct select arrow. I'm going to select on the path line between the back neck and the shoulder, the inner anchor point for the dart leg here by clicking on just that segment. That is what I have selected. I'm going to copy that with Command C, and then I'm going to paste it with a Command F. Puts it right in front. Now then I can use my keyboard arrows to nudge this over across my keyboard. All right, kind of putting it near in place of my front shoulder. And by going to my main select arrow, I can actually kind of rotate it just about the same angle and even use my keyboard arrows to sort of nudge it in place. What this does is gives me an idea of about where to add my anchor point. It actually is not right on the distinct midpoint of this. So under my pen tool, I'm going to tear those off just so I can get to them easily. And I'm going to add the anchor point tool, add an anchor point there. All right. Now we need to cut some of our anchor points in order to be able to divide our pattern piece into two different pattern pieces. I'm going to get my scissors tool. It is underneath the eraser tool in the toolbox, and I will select that anchor point on the shoulder seam that I had just added. And I'm scrolling down. I'm also going to use the scissor tool to cut the waist dart point. I'm going to click there. All right, I'm going to zoom out just a little bit. And I can see that my pattern piece, highlighted in blue, is now showing just the center front half of my pattern. I'm going to use my pen tool to pick up drawing right where that point is here. I can see my icon change next to my cursor, meaning I'm going to add on to this piece. So I will click, hold, and actually it connected it to my side piece. That's all right. Either one would be fine. I'm going to come down to my bust point, single click, and then single click, and notice my cursor icon changed to a 0. So now I have completed actually closing up my side portion of the pattern. That is all right. I'm going to get my selection tool and click away from everything for right now. All right, we have drawn that. Now we need to make cross marks for ease control before we go separating these. And the book instructions indicate to put those at about 2 inches away from our bust point. So I'm just going to use my line segment tool because I can click, hold, and drag for a short while. But I need to be 2 inches away. Since these darker lines indicate 1 full inch, and this isn't right on one of the darker lines, I notice it's 5/8 of an inch from this line. This represents a whole inch, and then if I go 1, 2, 3 more 1/8 of an inch across here, then I am at 2 inches away. There is going to be one of my notch marks. So I need to actually make copies of this and move it down to below my bust point. I'm using my selection tool. I'm going to have it selected by holding down my Alt Option key. I should be able to make a copy of it. And down here, I need to be 2 inches away. So there's 3/8, 1 full inch, and about 5/8. So there is my copy. And then I also need another copy on this part of the line. And I am going to just kind of rotate it a little bit, maybe even nudge it on up. There we go. Now I have a notch on each of my dart legs below the bust point and a control notch above the bust point. You can look at your diagram in your textbook to make sure that what you have drawn resembles what is the diagram on there. All right, now we need to make some copies and split things apart. We've already cut pieces. Now I need to make sure I make the right selections here. I need to select this segment of my plotted princess line, but I also had put an anchor point between here and here, so I'm going to need to add that segment. I'm going to hold my Shift key and click on that path. And then I also need to add this cross mark right here. So I can actually change to my selection tool, and it actually wanted to select that whole side. So I'm going to undo that part of my selection. Let's practice that again. Selecting the segment on there, this segment, and I can select both those anchor points. Now I'm going to copy and paste in front. That's Command F. And I can see by the highlighted pieces that that's what's all on there. I'm going to keep those highlighted. I'm going to hold my Shift key down and select this part of the center front, and I'm also going to include my notch mark under here. Now with all of those selected, I find it much easier to use my keyboard arrows to nudge them. I can hold my Shift key down and move that kind of quickly over out of the way. The other thing, I do not need that line from the other piece. Right here, I can just delete that. All right. Now, I have my two halves. This is a little bit disjointed here. We'll true that up, and then next we need to close this dart. So let's zoom on in. And right in here, I'm going to use my direct select tool and maybe just pull this leg in just a little bit. And I also notice that these points are not connected. So by selecting them separately and just kind of moving them a little bit, I can join them together by using my join tool. It is buried under the shaper tool. Here's the join tool, and click and drag over those two. Back to my direct select arrow, and looks like I have another portion here that does not appear to be joined. So we're going to join those, not rotate, whoops, join. Click and drag. Now then I can, looks like I have several anchor points. I do not need that one. We'll clean these up. There we go. And just trying to get this sort of trued up somewhat. Seems like I still have too many anchor points. When you use the join tool, it leaves both points rather than bringing them together as one. So I am just now trying to get these points so that this line, there we go, is a little bit more blended, trued up, as we say. Might even get rid of this last anchor point. There we go. So that it is more of a straight line. I didn't want to do that one. All right, zoom, Alt, and I can zoom out there. Selection tool, select away from everything. All right, now moving into side front right here, we need to give ourselves a guideline that is going to go from this anchor point, click, hold, and drag over to my bust point. There we go, that's just a guideline. My bust point I don't need anymore. I can select and move that out of the way. I do need to add an anchor point. The book says 3/4 of an inch away from the bust point, which puts it close to our dart point there. Get my add anchor point under my pen tool. I'm going to put it approximately right there. The next thing I need to do is actually this point right there. I need to cut it. There we go. Actually, no, I do not need to cut that. I need to select that point here and delete that point. When I delete it, I want it as a open gap here for my side dart. If I use the delete anchor point tool, what would happen is it would delete that point, but then it would keep these as a closed path, but I want them open right now. All right, so now we need to rotate the top portion closing the dart. So to make my selection, I actually need my direct select tool because I don't need all points, just the ones in this upper area. I also want to make sure I collect these two uh, line segments. So I'm trying to get all of those, and I also need this anchor point too, so holding the shift key down allows me to get that. And you know what? I need that cut right there, so I'm going to cut that. Now I need to make my selection again with my direct select arrow. Getting almost all of those, but it looks like I got more than I needed. I'm not wanting these parts. There we go. But if a anchor point is white, I need to make sure it is in my selection because all of those need to rotate together. My rotate tool, I need to reset that rotation at this anchor point, not the end one, but the one along that line. There's my rotation. And now I'm going to click and drag, bringing this down to that point as close as I can visually see. That will open up a little bit, but if you look at your diagram, that is expected. So now I'm going to zoom in over here, and I notice that I've got these 2 points right here just slightly off. That's all right, they're close enough. I'm going to kind of get them in line, and then I'm going to use my join tool to join those back up on my side seam. The other thing I need to do is right in here, close those up. I am going to select this segment. I do not need that guideline anymore, and I need to bring these together and close them. Remember, there's also other ways you can close gaps. You can use your pen tool and continue the drawing from one, closing to the other is another option. But in that, we actually probably do not need all those points. Maybe get rid of a few of those. And right here, I want to adjust this one so that it's a little more curved. There we go. By zooming out, now you can see that that's a much softer curve right in there. Okay, we're in pretty good shape. It's looking like the diagram's in the book of what we wanted. And the next thing to do is to make sure that our pattern pieces are completely closed paths so that then we can add our seam allowance on. I'm going to move my text out of the way again real quick. Okay, and right here, object, path, I have selected one of them. I need to offset my path. Remember, 0.5 is ½ inch. Click OK. Like that. The inner piece there, I need to go to my stroke option box and change it to a dashed line. All right. On my center front, I will select that piece. You know what? Before I do that, I'm going to move this away because I know that once that is offset, it will get that piece. So I need to move these on over. Now I can get this piece right in here. I'll move it away from the grain line just a little bit. Select on my outer path so it's not going to include my notches right now. Path, offset path. My last type in was ½ inch. That's good. All right. If it put that inside there, it means I still have a open-ended path. It is not a closed path. So I'm going to undo that. And I bet it's right up here. That is my culprit. So yes, I can see that those are not joined. I can join them by doing that with my join tool. Selection tool, select that. Now when I path offset path, it should do what I wanted it to. Very good. My inner line is going to be my stitch line, so I'm going to change that. Also, what I need to do is put center front on the fold. So let's actually cut center front here. There we go. Just select this line. I'm going to go ahead and get rid of it. And I need to do something here with these lines as well. I notice I have another anchor point real close here. We're going to do that. This segment, get rid of it. I'm going to zoom in. And this anchor point needs to move over just a little bit. So I will select it and just keyboard arrow that. The other thing is I want to go ahead and get rid of my dashed line along center front. So I'm going to select that one to cut. Scroll down to the bottom here and cut this one. There we go. With this selected, I'm going to delete that. This anchor point can move over and you can see your guidelines lining it up. Now then, zooming out, using my pen tool, I want to add on to my outer line here, closing that up. What that does now is allows center front to be on the fold. I'm going to bring my grain line over. I'm going to put one on my side front, and holding down my Alt Option key, I can put one over here by the front. Let me show you how you can turn those arrows. Let's add a point like here, and then direct select and turn that to touch the line. There we go. Add another anchor point here and turn this to, again, touch this line. There we go. Zoom, Alt. Last couple things here. I think you can carry on with this. You would need to select your outer edge and we can go ahead and give it a fill. Chances are, there we go. And same thing with our front. Okay, now we can use this text and put it over here. I'm going to double click and call this my center front bodice. Move down here, we will cut 1. All right, I can now also copy this text, bring it over here, and then edit it so it is my side front bodice, but I need to actually cut 2 for a pattern. Now I can click away from everything and my front ones are ready. I will save at this point. The next video will pick up with the back piece. Thank you for staying tuned. Good luck with everything.